Guys, welcome to today's episode. We've got entrepreneur guru with extensive history in helping emerging entrepreneurs achieve their first wins and overcoming obstacles. Sorry, haven't had my coffee yet. We've got Adam Hudson here today on Tiger Table. Welcome, mate.
Mate, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Excited, man. I'm pumped about this one. I remember I saw you live in Brisbane in 2018, and you had this incredible story on stage of a woman who she was doing quite a lot of sales of a toy plush penguin.
Yeah.
And she was a mum. I think she had a couple kids, and she was just a normal Aussie getting up on stage in front of 5,000 people and telling her story about how she killed it on Amazon.
Yeah. Incredible times. Yeah, it was such an exciting phase.
Yeah. And your background, I know you've been doing personal development since you're very young. You did Amway. I did Amway when we were kids. I started reading Robert Kiyosaki books when I was a young one, and that's why I went to the event in 2018, and I was just blown away by your story and what you were doing with the community at that time. So we'll certainly dive into that at some point. But how did your journey start, mate, in business?
Well, I came from a working class family,
Yeah.
and I was living in Brisbane. I moved out of home when I was 17, I think, and I was living in Browns Plains, which is sort of, they call it Brown Stains up that way. And through the church that I was in, I got exposed to Amway. Somebody recruited me into Amway.
Amway was big in church.
Yeah. It was like a built-in network, right?
Yeah.
And I'd never been exposed to business, and I first learned the word entrepreneur when I was at the church. There was one guy that had money, and he drove a red Porsche. And I asked people, what does this guy do? And they're like, he's an entrepreneur. I'm like, oh my goodness, like, what is that? And
It's like a Wolf of Wall Street scene. Yeah. Like, how did you get that car?
Yeah, they were like, you get to make your own business and your own income. And as soon as I understood the word, I loved it. And then somebody recruited me into Amway, and the great thing about Amway was it got me reading, and I got exposed to my first personal development book, which was The Magic of Thinking Big, and it changed my life. Like, it was the first time I'd read anything other than a school book. And I was like, this is incredible. You mean I can like self-determine my life, and set a goal and then go for it. So that's how I got started.
Isn't that interesting how, like, when we're so young, we're so impressionable as well?
Yeah.
And I remember the first book I ever read was Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. So a guy who, because my uncle joined Amway and he invited me in, and I signed up and didn't do anything. I was 17, you know what I mean? But it got me reading. And I remember reading this book, Cash Flow Quadrant, and Robert basically was saying that there's 4 ways to make money. You can be an employee, you can run a small operation and have a team of employees, you could be an investor, or you could run a big company. And there was like a wall in between. And he's like, how do you go from the left side to the right side? And how do you become an investor and a big business person?
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't know I could learn this stuff. Yeah. I thought I had to go get a degree, or I had to go to university to figure this stuff out. So
great book, and it's so simple, the concept, but you know what? They don't teach it at school, and life changing. Yeah.
So then take me from Amway into how you had probably the biggest Amazon community in what it felt like the Asia Pacific.
Yeah, well, it was probably the second biggest selling Amazon course in the world.
Wow.
We grew it to 16,000 students in 45 countries.
It's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, the basis of that success, I was living in Los Angeles. I moved there in 2011 after going through a horrific period in my life business-wise. Got wiped out in 2008. And
what were you doing at the time?
I was helping companies raise early stage capital at that time, and we took the company public just before the 2008 financial crisis.
Oh, wow.
And so I was escrowed, and all my wealth, not all of it, I had some houses and property, and I thought I was doing pretty well. And I had an 8-figure stake that was still listed, but the shares went to nothing, and it just about wiped me out. And I recovered, moved to Los Angeles, and it took me 3 years or so to recover from that. And then I had just enough money to move overseas. I just had enough and wanted a break. Yeah. So I moved to LA. I set up an animation company, which is a whole nother story.
What?
I
didn't know this.
From scratch. Yeah. So set it up from scratch, and I was doing the right thing at the right time. And we might talk about this later in the pod, but and within 2 years, I'd attracted like 30 of the biggest companies in America as clients. I had Volvo, Canon, MasterCard, UNICEF, the World Bank.
You were doing animation, like an animation agency.
And I can't animate, I can't draw.
My fellow creative. Didn't know that. Wonderful.
Yeah. So it was cool. But while I was doing that in LA, I discovered Amazon. And at that time, as an Australian, I thought Amazon just sold books. And anyway, I started selling whiskey glasses on Amazon just for fun. And I thought, this would be amazing if this worked, because I can make US dollars, move back to Australia one day, sell to 300 million Americans, and live the dream, And it took off, and it ended up going into wine decanters and all these other things. And so I moved back to Australia in 2015, had this international business on Amazon, and people were like, how did you set that Amazon thing up? So I made a little course on a selfie stick. And then I started studying, how do you sell a course online? Of course, there's a whole industry there. And then it grew, and it struggled at the start until I learned what to do. And then it grew into a business that over the next 5 years generated $75 million in sales.
Unbelievable. And like, did you feel that you had a desire to build a community? Like, is that something you always did?
Oh, look, mate, I'm just going to say this. I hate the personal development industry. I love it.
Yeah.
I have a love-hate relationship with it because unfortunately, it just attracts a lot of skeezy kind of snake oil.
Weird people. Yeah.
Yeah. Just people who see that there's just huge margins in selling
Yeah.
information, right? And there are some great people in it, and there are some horrible people in it. And I despise people who don't place massive value on people's post-tax dollars.
Yeah, wow.
So if a family guy or a woman or whatever has worked their butt off all day, they've paid the tax man, and they've got this little bit left that they're going to invest in their
And a
personal
big
growth.
dream, and they're fired up, you know.
Yeah, you're going to take that money off somebody, you better deliver.
Yeah.
And people in this industry, so a lot of people don't. They just see it as, I'm going to sell the dream and take their cash, and it just really shits me. And so my business partner, Joe, and I at that time were committed to being a personal growth organization that really actually gave a genuine shit about people.
Yeah.
And so we would interview them for the first 3 years. We would interview them and say, hey, listen, have you got at least 10 grand of working capital after paying for the course
Yeah.
to actually do Amazon?
Because they have to invest into a product, into a lot of stuff to do drop shipping and Amazon. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. You got to buy your own inventory in this model that we were teaching, so that you were actually building an asset. It wasn't just drop shipping. We didn't do drop shipping where you don't control anything. You actually control everything. And so if they didn't have the money, when we interviewed them after buying the course, we would refund them. We actually gave back $2 million in course sales that we'd made on the basis that that was their last money in the world at the time. We said, come back in a year when you've saved up some money so you can actually execute what we're going to teach you. And people thought we were insane. But
that's incredible. It's like doing the right thing is always the right thing. And, you know.
Word spread, and it built this community of people like, man, these guys are insane. And then when we ran events, we didn't just put, on an event and then just put people on stage just selling stuff all day and then at the end have value. We had 3 days where it was all value, and we invested a lot into the events. In the end, we were doing events for 2,500 people. The sandwich bill was $750,000. The event bill was $2 million to put the event on for 3 days.
It's a lot of sandwiches.
Yeah, it's a lot of sandwiches, a lot of people. But we wanted people to come away and go, wow, this is an amazing community, and people absolutely it was like a family. So we really invested in that idea that people do need a church, right? I'm not a religious guy now. I'm actually probably the opposite. But people do need a church of connection. They do need to get around people that are of the same vibe and of the same mindset. And because of the way that we marketed the course, we were very upfront about, hey, it's a lot of work, it's hard work, it's high risk. But if you're prepared to do all that, and without any guarantee of success, this is the community for you. So we attracted a certain type of people, and they were a little bit older. They were very, very hardworking and prepared for the real battle ahead of small business.
Yeah. It's interesting that like you talk on the topic of church, because my background, I went to church. I was in youth groups. I was a youth pastor in another life, and did a lot of marketing as well. So for the youth group I was in, the way we would get kids to come is we used to bomb hills on skateboards in Brisbane. Yeah. King's car park.
Yeah.
You know how there's like, I don't know, it's like 15 stories tall of car parks. We used to go there, catch an elevator to the top, skateboard and slide down the car park at, 10 o'clock at night, get the elevator back up and do it all over again. But it got to the point where we had, like a couple hundred kids bombing hills in Brisbane. So we got the attention of the police. But we used to give out free skateboards, free shoes, and then we would bring kids to church. So like, the fond memories I have, because I don't, I wouldn't consider myself religious either. But the memories I have is community, like kind of doing life with others. And I think sometimes entrepreneurs feel quite lonely because it's quite a unique endeavor to go out and build a company. And if you're not really surrounded by that energy, it can be difficult.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. So for you, like when you're looking at building a community, your passion is, maybe a bone to pick, a frustration with the personal development space and feeling like it needs to be done better.
Yeah.
What part of you loves community building though? Like what do you get out of that?
Oh, look, I love people, right? I don't like their habits, but I love people. you know, I love people. I love bringing people together, and I love to teach. Like that's my superpower. I don't know why, but I just love sharing what I'm doing in real time.
Is it seeing the reaction in people and how they go through a transformation? Because you have some wild transformation stories.
Yeah, look, yeah, definitely. I mean, I believe deeply in people.
Yeah.
And I do really understand that sense of loneliness of being an entrepreneur. You know, I recently was on Instagram, and I was sort of sharing a video about how growing up, I was in a house with my brother and two friends, and I was always the one that wanted, because I was reading these books, right? I wanted more for my life. So like when the mobile phones came out, you guys are all a bit young for this, but it's hard for you guys to imagine. But when mobile phones first came out, you were a complete idiot, like a total wanker if you had a phone.
I remember watching my
phone.
parents.
Yeah, everyone was like so embarrassed if their parents bought a mobile phone, because you're like, you tosser, like seriously, dude, can't you just wait home to make a phone call? Like that's how it was. It was just this cultural shift. And so I was down there and got my mobile phone from Brash's on a payment plan so the older listeners go, oh my God, there's a flashback. Brash's, right? Brash's used to be the big Harvey Norman, right?
Yeah. My first phone was a 3310 Nokia.
Yeah, the old flip phones.
The indestructible one. That was
right, the brick.
The brick, yeah.
Wow, dude. And so, so when you got that, I was always wanting those things and wanting things that were better. And my friends, even back then, and family were like, dude, you know, you need to pull it in a bit, and, you know, you need to live within your means. And I remember it so clearly how alone I felt in my ambition to want more from life. You know? I was working 2 jobs. I was making $180 a week in a 1-hour photo shop. You guys probably don't even know what a 1-hour photo is.
I do remember.
You do remember? You know, film, the concept of 24 shots.
I remember going in there when I was like 4, 5, or 6, and my mum had taken photos on a Kodak, and she's like getting them processed and stuff. So vividly remember it. Yeah,
dude, like it was a whole thing, you know. So I used to process photos in Browns Plains. Great place to do that.
Brown stains.
Yeah, that's a whole other world.
Yeah,
and I was running pizzas at night for Domino's, and I always wanted more. So this idea that you could build a community of people that were as insane as you, that wanted more from life, and I think Amway again and those multi-level marketing things provided that. They sort of curated a community of people that wanted to give it a run, who had big dreams, where you weren't that crazy if you wanted to own a Porsche one day, or
it was kind of everyone had the similar dreams, you know. Everyone was on the same wavelength or the same energy.
Totally. Yeah. And so I love building communities and creating sort of a language that people can share. And so what we did well at Reliable was our mascot was the rhino, and so we were able to play those sort of tokens into our events and use metaphors that rallied people. We described the 4 stages of growth, and how when people first start, they're giraffes, you know, they're tall and a bit geeky, and they bump their head on things, and then they become gazelles, and then they become a lion or a tiger. And
so what, like, I'm curious now, you've piqued my interest. What are the 4 stages of growth in your community?
We made them up, you know, and the last event we did was called Welcome to the Jungle. And so we had, you know, 70 volunteers dressed up in full safari outfits.
Wow.
And, you know, it was a full.
And this is a live event.
Live event.
You're going in there, people are dressed in safari outfits.
Oh, we had people turning up dressed as lions and dressed as, you know.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was cool. And it was like a festival, right? Because this was a tribe. And so the first one was a giraffe. You know, like everyone loves giraffes. They're gentle, they're kind, but they're bumping their heads on things. And the next one was a gazelle. And a gazelle is kind of these young, hungry guys that they sprint all day and they're a bit frenetic.
Yeah.
And you got the owls, which is sort of like your highly educated accountants and lawyers and things like that are like at the event going, all these people are insane. They come from formal education.
Just wide-eyed, like, what's happening?
They're very smart, but they've got no clue about business. And then you've got your tigers, which are your sort of hardcore entrepreneurs.
Tigers.
Yeah, the tigers. They've earned their stripes kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then there's the elephants who've made it in business. They sort of cruise into the event. You know, they're all good to go. And so we sort of talked about the transition through, you know, those places, with all of you hopefully becoming a tiger and then an elephant one day. Because it is a whole learning journey to get there. And there's no way to get your stripes of a tiger without going to war and making some mistakes. And
because it is like that. Like, I felt like, you know, because I did MLM and I had a downline organization of about 2,600 people, and that's kind of where I cut my teeth as a salesperson, as a marketer. Because to build MLM, it's brutal. You know, it's a tough slog, but some powerful lessons in that about entrepreneurship, perseverance, hard work,
rejection,
a lot of rejection. You know, 9 people would say get bent, 1 person say maybe, and then you're trying to work on them to come on board. But Yeah. So for you, it's really important. It sounds like you're not just trying to get people into an event to pay the ticket, get them motivated and move them on. You were trying to build a community where someone would come in as a giraffe, bump in their head, no idea what's going on. But you got this kingdom around them of people that can help guide them, protect them, give them advice, consult with them, and you know, kind of not a shoulder to cry on, but someone to not feel so alone anymore, to feel like they're a part of or belonging to something bigger than them.
It was an amplification of my own experience of entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And we kind of poured into those events everything that I wish was there. And one of the things we did at the start of the events on the first morning was we recognized people for their achievements. So we had awards from when you make your first $10,000 in sales for the month up to $1 million US in a year. We had students doing $2 million US a month, but we had all the way through to, you know, from making your first 10 grand that we get them on stage, give them a trophy, and they'd be sitting there in the audience, or they would have had a coffee in the morning, and then 5 seats down from them, some husband and wife team who they thought were just normal, just like them, gets on stage and gets their 100 grand a month award. And so we'd put hundreds of people on stage who won these awards. Then they go back to their chairs, and it set the event on fire for the rest of the weekend, because you'd see these people with their badge and their trophy, and you go, oh my God, this actually works. And these people sitting in the audience are not Adam. They're not this, you know, person they put on a pedestal because they've been on all the videos. They're actually normal people sitting next to them who actually persevered and succeeded. So the key to our success with our business was that it actually worked. People did actually get results, and that's the secret sauce. There's the community part, but it wouldn't work if people were all failing, and they weren't. Our students have done nearly $3 billion in sales on Amazon with a B. You know?
Wow.
And we know it to the cent because we own the software company that 90% of them use to track. So we know their sales by the minute. We know what their inventory is. We know how many units they've got in stock, and we know right now how much they're making per hour. You know?
So what inspired you to operate it that way? Because it's like, was it Amway? Were you inspired by anyone else to kind of craft it like that? Because we talked about this. We had coffee, what was it, 2 weeks ago, and you were talking about how people would be so much more moved by getting a trophy than how much money they're making. They could be making $1 million a month, but getting up on stage, getting given a trophy, being recognized and celebrated was more powerful for that individual than maybe the money they're making.
Well, what it was actually was Russell Brunson. So Russell Brunson with his ClickFunnels, we were a ClickFunnels client for a long time.
Okay.
And we got our $10 million award early on in the piece when we passed 10 million in sales using ClickFunnels. And I was just at the studio one day, and this big box arrives, and this trophy, like this big award thing, comes out of the box. And I was like, oh my God, like this is so cool. And I realized, you know, the importance of recognizing adults for achievement. Like once you leave school, there's no gold star on the forehead anymore. So the opportunity to work for something, and people work so hard to get recognized. And if you actually recognize them in front of their peers, like the amount of effort people went to get on that stage was phenomenal to get that award. And they used to take photos of it. I'd go to their homes, and I didn't realize this. I'd go to their homes sometimes, and it was like pride of place in
like a shrine.
Like a shrine. Like they actually did it.
Wow.
And they were so proud of it. And I realized how powerful it was watching Russell. And when I went to the event and saw people going crazy, and I put the pin on, this little black pin that said I was in the 8-figure club, and I got my award actually with Alex Hormozi, who many people know now, before Alex was Alex.
Get out of here, man.
He was on stage at the same time, And so Alex,
we're gonna unpack that soon.
Yeah, I mean he's a legend now, right? But some of those huge guys, Dan Locke and all that, they were all on stage at the same time.
What?
And and then from that moment on, I couldn't get any peace at the event. Like people were coming up for selfies. I think there was 10 of us that had won that award at that time.
Yeah.
We were like the very top.
How many people were at the event or in their community, do you think?
3,000 maybe at that event in Nashville.
Yeah.
And then Forbes magazine or Success magazine interviewed me backstage, and I was like, oh my God, like these awards are insane. So, but we'd started it, but we took it to another level. In the end, we were spending 30 or 40 grand just on the awards for the shows.
Wow.
Just for the trophies, because we didn't skimp out. We didn't I always say to people, you have to have a vision, a standard, and then recruitment, VSR, vision, standards, recruitment for your business. So you got to create a vision of what you're trying to do. And ours was to have the best events in the country with the most successful students in the world. We measured success by what our students were achieving, not by how many course sales or all those vanity metrics. It's around them. So vision for the brand, and then standards. So what does that translate to in terms of standards? And then who do you need to recruit to make this happen? And so every aspect of our events was, very purposeful. We trained our volunteers months in advance. We made videos that would be played in the green room to our volunteers days before, because we knew that our volunteers would be hundreds or thousands of touch points throughout the weekend, and how just the smallest gesture that they made with our community could mean so much to them. So anyway, we ran a pretty cool organisation that was just around really acknowledging and respecting the money and the time and the effort that our community had entrusted with us. And that was at the very core, because I felt that my money and my time had been so disrespected so many times in that industry, where you'd see this amazing bit of marketing and like the videos are produced like by rival media, like tip top shit, right?
Yeah.
Then you get the course and it's back to a fucking selfie stick.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the fuck happened? Right? Like,
Where's the high production?
what happened?
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, dude, I got your money now. Like, it's like,
that's all the budget we had was to do that ad.
Yeah. And then they just don't give not a single shit about you after that. So we made sure that the experience behind the wall was as good or better than in front of the wall. Yeah. And people did respect that. And
So do you think, like, I guess, because if you're making money, right, and I'm just thinking back to when I was doing ACN, which was the MLM I did, and they had this, you could Google it, it's this giant ring. It looks like a Super Bowl ring when you hit SVP, which was like the epitome rank in building your organization. You needed probably 10,000 people in your downline to do it.
Yeah.
But I remember I had that thing printed up, put on the wall. I had songs I used to listen to, and I'd imagine myself putting the ring on. And I was, for me, it was almost like that was the symbol of like, you made it. Yeah. Like you all your efforts kind of accumulated to one moment.
Yep.
Do you think it's more about like someone feeling like they've had that moment of like, I done it? Or do you think it's the significance of people respecting them? Like, what do you think it is? Or is it a combination?
Look, it's a really interesting.
Yeah, look at this thing.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. What do we got? Let me put my glasses.
Stupid ring that I wanted.
Like a Super Bowl ring.
Yeah. I got one exactly like that from Russell, and like you could not wear it in Australia. It's so Liberace, man. Like it was like big, gaudy, same thing.
It's so gaudy, but I wanted it.
Did you? Yeah.
I used to wear a suit every day, my pointy shoes and all the rest of it.
Well, it goes back to MLM. Like when I was in Herbalife, right? I wanted to be in the president's
Jim
team.
Rohn?
Jim Rohn. Yeah, that was my first live event that I ever did was Jim Rohn.
Wait, you went to a Jim Rohn event?
Yeah, that's how old I am.
Whoa, wait. When did he pass, man? Because
he's been dead for a while. But I was 19 and I couldn't afford the event. It was like $2,000 or something back then.
That's a lot back then.
Yeah. Like I saved up.
He's the GOAT.
A lady at Vision Pursuit is what it was called. The company that sold the tickets.
So that was like so sometimes MLMs have like sub companies. It was his like company within them.
No. It was just it was a Vision Pursuit. So which sort of morphed into Success Resources today, I believe.
Really?
Back in the day, it sort of morphed. I think I could be wrong.
And he came out to Australia. Just curious.
Yeah, he came to Australia. I was at the Royal Pines on the Gold Coast. So I paid this thing off over like 6 months to attend. And but Jim was amazing guy.
Yeah.
But anyway, I can't remember where that was going. But
no, so I guess to cycle back, like fun segue. I'm a fan of Jim Rohn. I just think he's cool,
and the best.
He has this just unique, dynamic way to kind of deliver things in a funny, relatable way. Because I found in MLM, like you kind of, if you were big and fancy, it would be a turn off for people, especially here in Australia.
Right.
Whereas Aussies like to hear the underdog story.
Yep.
The average Joe made it. Yeah. We love that kind of stuff. So, but back to like the significance piece, you believed big in, giving people awards. You got one for when you were in ClickFunnels. You shared the stage with Alex Hormozy and Dan Locke. Like, what did you, I guess, experience in that moment? Was that like, oh, I made it. I've been recognized for it. Like, what do you think is that? Yeah,
it's a funny story. Yeah. I was sick as a dog when I went on stage. This whole flu went around the convention center.
Yeah.
Look, it was kind of exciting to go and do it. For me, it was. It was being recognised. I didn't realise how small a club that was to be in the 8-figure club. It was a goal of mine. For those listening, just on that, 8 figures was once a big goal for me. Like to go to 7 figures to 8, a huge goal. And I said it actually. I went to an event in New York. It's a whole story. I'll just tell you really quickly.
No,
it's
go for it, man.
Interesting
this is interesting.
Because I was in Los Angeles with my animation company, and I was the first WeWork tenant in Los Angeles. It was their 9th office in the world at that time. And so I was their very first tenant. There was nobody in the LA office, and it was basically in the shadow of the Hollywood sign on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. The stars are out the front.
Yeah.
One day, this guy comes in the office and he says, "How you doing, man? Like, tell me about your experience here." And he goes, "My name's Adam. I'm the owner of WeWork, Adam Newman."
Get out of here. You met him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I got to know Adam pretty well, actually. And we hit it off. And he said, "Dude, like, we've got our first WeWork camp that you would have seen on the WeWork series over." I was actually in the crowd. Walk on the Moon, was that the name of the band? Anyway, they were playing, and he said, "Look, if you get your ticket over to New York, I'll pay for you to go to the camp." So I went and hang with Adam and all the guys over there in LA. And
what was he like?
Very, very charismatic.
Yeah.
Exactly like he was played in the TV series.
Okay.
And then he invited me back to New York City and showed me his WeWork in the meatpacking district, which was 6 floors, beer free flowing all day. The guy was just on a mission. You know, he's very, very charismatic. Anyway, I ended up as a result of that up there in New York, and they did this exercise where they said, "What is your goal? What do you want to figure out?" And I'm like, "I want to learn how to go to 8 figures. I want to learn that." And I had no idea doing it. He says, "All right, Adam's been a bit of a hippie, and his wife was a hippie as well." And they said, "Write it down on a piece of paper and make it into a paper airplane, and then throw it into the crowd and with your name on it, and people will seek you out." Sure enough, I had 5 people come to me, found me through the event, said, "Here's how you get to 8 figures." And so I just started applying what they were teaching, and I had no idea how to get there. And then like 4 years later, I was at 8 figures.
What were some of the things that they said to you?
Just buying traffic, profitably, converting it profitably, having an offer that converts. And you know, it became, I know we're going to talk about this ICE method that I developed, but the execution piece, and making sure that your idea actually can scale, that you have enough margin to actually make the sale at scale.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I went to this event in New York, and I learned that. And so the power of these events, you just never know where they're going to lead.
Yeah.
And yeah, it led to me being on stage in Nashville a few years later with Russell and Alex and all these other people as a result of it. And yeah, the recognition piece is definitely part of it.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in, like, you know, setting out with a very specific goal. Like some call it SMART goals. And, you know, the cool thing about, I guess, our backgrounds in MLM is just getting back to basics.
Yeah.
Sometimes we try to over dramatize and over exaggerate our goals and all the rest of it. Honestly, just the basics sometimes, like have a good offer, knowing where the traffic's coming from, how to convert them. Like maybe it's not the sexy stuff to talk about, but that's the stuff that makes money.
It is.
Yeah.
So many times people have an idea, and this is maybe just jumping forward, but one of the mistakes I see so many young entrepreneurs make, or inexperienced entrepreneurs, sometimes they're not young, but they're just starting in business at 40 or 50, you know, they think the product is the be all, and I've developed, you know, whatever, something they're passionate about. And I'm like, okay, that's great. What's the path to market? How are you actually going to sell this thing? If it was made and created, it was absolutely perfect, exactly how you want it. But a lot of people get caught in the brand and the creation and the imagination. That's all the fun part of business. Yeah. But at the end of the day, you've got to sell it.
You got to execute it.
Yeah, you got to sell it profitably. So who's going to sell it? How are they going to find out about it? What does it cost to get their attention?
Yeah.
And what does it cost for the salesperson to do the sale?
And this was your ICE method that we were chatting about on the phone last night, which blew me away. And if you want to unpack that, man, because I thought that was fascinating, because you're just distilling down. We're talking about big numbers, right? You're talking about 8 figures, you're talking about all this stuff. But sometimes some people just want to go, how do I get started? Yeah. Like, how do I get my first win? So like rewind to when I was sitting in that room when you were speaking on stage. Yeah. I was fascinated by what you were doing. And at that time I was like, man, I wish I had the capital to jump in. Cause you said on stage, if you don't have 10 grand, like don't do it. Yeah. And I was like, damn, like I can't afford any of this stuff. I was broke. Yeah. I was working at Telstra, and then Gary Vee came out and his message was just start. And I was like, okay, well I could do that. Yeah. You know, so I think for me, like the first client I got, I remember it was $20 for a logo, and I was lit up. I felt like I'd made $1 million. I was like, I just figured out how to make money on my own. Yeah. And that
big moment
electrified me, right? And that was just my first win.
How long ago was that?
This is in 2018, like probably November 2018.
Dude, like it's inspiring. Like I'm coming here into your office today, and it's dope. Like your office is sick. I love it.
Thanks,
You've got a whole team. You're in North Sydney. You're pumping. You've got great clients. So for everyone listening, just tune into Dane's story. Like it's a sick story.
Yeah, started with $20.
Started with $20.
And my shitty laptop that had some of the keys missing, and I didn't have an office or anything. I was just on there every night hustling. And I think like for me, it's just how does someone get that first win? You know what I mean? Yep. So for you, you had thousands of students, 16,000 students. You had to deliver and you had to help people mobilize. Like, what was your approach to getting people off the ground that were getting started?
Well, I think, with all things, the first step is always education. So if you're thinking about the very next step, the smart thing to do is educate yourself first before you take a step. So Alex says this, right? So Alex Hormozi said he invested in himself, acquiring skills until there was no more skills to acquire, and then you start taking wiser, better action. Yeah. So he, famously paid Grant Cardone $100,000 for 3 phone calls.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And because, he said, look, well, Grant's a billionaire now. At the time he was on his way. And he said, I need to know what he knows. And he just kept acquiring skills. And as he was acquiring skills, his income grew in proportion to the amount of skills he has, because that's actually how life works, right? Yeah. The smarter you are and the more skills you have, the more money you make. So as he made more money, he reinvested in more skills. Even to this day, I'm getting coached right now. I pay $30,000 a year for the coaching that I'm in, right?
And you were telling me a funny story about this, which we'll come back to, which I love. Yeah. But investing in yourself, that's so right, because I think like, you and I did MLM, which is somewhat of a personal development program. Yeah. I've read a lot of books. You've read a lot of books. We've accumulated a lot of like rubbish that we've consumed as well. Sure. So then you can start seeing what is maybe bullshit and what is the hard skills. Yeah.
These days, people watching this, if you're ignorant in 2023, it's a choice. It's called learning. Like, go to YouTube, right? If you don't know how to feed yourself properly, you don't understand what food's going to support you and make you better and what food's going to kill you, that's on you.
Yeah.
If you don't, there's so much available high quality information. When I grew up, like, a billionaire was somebody you read about once a year in the BRW Rich List. Now you can follow them on Twitter, and you can watch interviews with Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, and you have unprecedented levels of access to incredible knowledge.
Right. And it's not like it was always like that.
Dude, no, it wasn't. Like Jim Rohn would come out once a year and you would pay $2,000 to listen to him for a day. Yeah. Now you can listen to Elon Musk rant on about anything or whatever, infinitum, right? Like you have access to such a high level of knowledge. So the first place to start is get smarter, right? Yeah. Invest in your knowledge, and that will organically lead to better actions, better networks. People always say, where do you go to network? I'm saying, before you network, before you put your product on sale, because that's what you're doing when you turn up at these events, how are you? Like, are you the version of you want to be? Like I say to people, become the source of what you seek, right? Be the
goosebumps, man. That's a nice one. Yeah.
Your job is to become the best version of a man or a woman that you can be, and then give it away to the world. So before you go giving it away to the world, become the best version of you. Cody Sanchez says the same thing. A lady that I follow, young woman who's just a killer out of the US. So you've got to invest in becoming the best version of you as the first step. Education will always win. Like Zig Ziglar and Jim Rohn used to have this argument. Zig Ziglar is the famous motivator, also passed away now. And you go, all you got to do, Jim, is, motivate him. And Jim would sort of look at him and goes, but what happens if you motivate an idiot? Right? Yeah. That's dangerous. So education's step one, and then helping them to get to their first win. Like, when your confidence is low and when you haven't got a trail of wins, the first place to start is in things you can control to have a win. And so that's why I always say to people, before we talk about business, if you're really at rock bottom or you're really starting out, there's 2 things you can control. You can control what you put in your mouth, and you can control what you do with your body. So let's start there. Let's start with eating better. Let's start with doing some exercise and having those wins, because those wins then translate to other wins. Let's read 20 pages a day of a book. And if you start there, all of a sudden you're going to be feeling better, you're going to be looking better, and you're going to be reading 20 pages a day of a book, and that's a win. And then you can start testing your ideas and so on. And the thing I like about this ICE model that we're going to talk about is that it gives a framework that you can assess any business idea on and how to take that to market. And the high level overview of it is idea for I, capital, right, and then execution. So if you've got those 3 things, all businesses are made up of those. Somebody has a great idea, Somebody has to have some money to execute, to do it.
Yeah.
And then somebody has to execute it. And where people get tricked up sometimes is they tell themselves this story that, oh, I have an idea. It's a great idea. And I reckon I've got the skills. But
all the time.
But I don't have the money.
Yeah.
So as a young kid growing up in a working class family in Australia, I was programmed deeply. If you don't have the money, it doesn't exist. Well, here's what I found out since becoming rich, right? When you get rich, you realize the problem with the rich is they've got shitloads of money. Their problem is trying to find people that they trust enough with good ideas enough to actually invest in them. So there's actually a problem on the other side, which is there's no shortage of money in the world.
No.
Absolutely none. The shortage is of great people who are well educated. I'm not talking about university here, but really understand what it takes to become successful and are willing to pay the price with a great idea. You put in front of me somebody with a great idea and somebody who's got a great team or on their own, that the money's not the problem for them.
Yeah.
And so the idea capital execution is, what is a great idea? Let's dive into what a great idea looks like.
How would you litmus test an idea from your experience?
Well, one of the biggest things one of the things I've done recently, and I did it because after my education business, which I stopped sort of doing about a year and a half ago now, I had some time off. And then I thought, I made a couple of investments. One of the investments I made was into a vintage caravan company.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, it's cool. There's a friend of mine. It was a dream he'd had. He had a great idea. He was at a time in his life where he was willing to do the work. So he had idea and he was willing to execute and he could do it.
He was just missing the capital.
He didn't have the capital. So I became his investor. I got him going. He sold over $1 million worth of vans in his first year and he was able to repay the capital to me and he's off on his own. And I got a return on my interest and all these different things. But what was the question? Sorry, it was...
So with how do you test an idea?
How do you test the idea?
Because everyone has an idea.
Yes.
Or a handful.
So this is the where I was leading with that is when I worked with him for 6 months.
Yeah.
One of the problems they faced was a toilet, because in caravans, people are still pooping into chemical toilets, and you got to pull this thing out. I'd never used one, and when I saw it, I was like, "Oh my god, people actually do this!" Like they carry
I never thought about that. You have to manually
poo in a bucket across a caravan park and pour it down this little hole, which literally is a hellhole because everybody else's poo is going to this. I was like, this is disgusting. I would not go camping, but that's what they do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I need to find a better solution for this, right? So this is leading to this idea capital execution. How do you know a good idea? So we sold a caravan to somebody who wanted a toilet that burned poo. It's called an incinerator toilet. And then we said, yeah, we can do that.
Wait, that exists?
Yeah, it's a $7,000 toilet.
Wow.
And so we said, yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
We'll buy one. So
I want one of those just for the sake of being able to burn my own poo. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, you burn it, but it was 45 minutes to burn a poo. What? And so it's like...
That's a lot of energy, man.
So it's like having a microwave on high for 45 minutes, which when you're a caravaner is a nightmare. Right?
Yeah, that's a lot of energy,
It turns it into ash, and you can't do another poo for 45 minutes. So if you've got kids, you're screwed. So it's either like do the poo burning or like carry your own poop in a bucket. It's just disgusting. Right?
Yeah.
So I made this sale for $7,500 toilet added to the price. And then we rang the company. They said, no, we can't sell you the thing if it's going in a caravan because these incinerator toilets have to be in a fixed location.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, damn, okay, so I've got this sale that's pending a toilet. So I looked all over the world looking for a toilet. And I found this company in America that had a patented toilet. And this isn't to flog the toilets at all. I just want to tell you the story. So I found this toilet company that was called Dry Flush. It was patented. It was invented by a soldier. He partnered with a wealthy patent family in New York who funded them, but they didn't have a distributor in Australia. So I ordered 2 of these toilets, and they're an amazing invention where it basically wraps the poo using a bag, and then it's completely clean and smell-free and all this. So I ordered 2 of these toilets, and then I asked them, hey, listen, these toilets are amazing. Can I get the rights to Australia and New Zealand? So and then I started a business selling these toilets, and I still sell them to this day.
Get out of here.
Yeah, an electric camping toilet.
What's it called?
Dry Flush.
So is that the brand you're working under?
It's Lavio is the brand.
Yeah.
Lavio Dry Flush Toilet. So the website is dryflush.com.au. You can look it up. Dry
I
Flush.
got to see this, man.
Yeah, you'll see me on the homepage. Right? Spruiking toilets.
Yeah.
Now I built this hoping to teach and not just
the logo.
The logo.
Dude, loving the logo.
That's incredible.
This toilet is bonkers.
Look at you, man.
That's me, man, rocking it.
Yeah.
So I built this, and I started to teach my son Josh, this is how you build a business, right?
Yeah.
And so So I built this little website, and I got the rights to Australia, New Zealand. I bought a container load to get the rights. But the reason this is a great business is because it solves a real problem.
Wait, what's happening there?
So that's the bagging system. So there's 5 meters of so it's called mylar, but there's 5 meters of this bagging material that sits under the seat.
Okay.
And it wraps each poop into a little bundle.
Wow.
Using motors and fans.
A little Christmas present.
Yeah, and you can see that's obviously your poo is not as big as a volleyball, but, but you get
I'm
the
like,
idea
mate,
of it.
what are you eating? Yeah.
Yeah, so but it just shows the concept. It's like the old diaper genie.
Yeah.
So it's a great idea because it solves a real problem for people. Like I sold one last night to a guy whose mum is 94 and she can't get to the bathroom quickly enough now. So we can put this toilet right by the bed.
Oh.
No problem at all. So we sell it to disability markets, we sell it to camping, caravans, tiny homes, all these places.
Yeah.
But the reason it works, when you said, what's a great idea? First of all, it solves a real problem. Second of all, there's enough margin in it to buy attention. And what I mean by that is if I was selling a $25 product today, that's great. It might be the coolest $25 product around, unless it's really like the best thing since sliced bread, that's a really, truly innovative, game-changing product, which most people don't have. How are you going to get attention? Well, the answer is you put it on Google, or you put it on Facebook or Instagram. You come to an agency like you who does the branding, attention. And then you got to buy the ads. Well, dude, I don't know what you charge for branding, but let's say it's 50 grand for branding. Then you're going to spend at least 5 or 10 grand a month in traffic. How many of these things have you got to sell? And if they're $25, even if you pay $5 for them, how many clicks can you buy for 20? You know, your margin might only be another $10. So
yeah, and your conversion might be 2%.
If your clicks are $1, you got to convert 1 in 10, right? You can't scale that. But a toilet like this, people are looking intentionally for camping toilet, tiny home toilet. There's 8,000 searches a month for a chemical toilet. You know, there's 12,000 searches a month for a camping toilet. So I know there's a built-in search market, right?
So you look at, so with an idea, okay, so you have something that solves a problem.
Yes.
Has to solve a problem. This is a huge problem that you stumbled onto.
Yes.
Is your brain always looking for problems?
As an entrepreneur, totally. I'm frustrated constantly about all sorts of shit. Like
sounds
when
like
you
torture.
check into a hotel, you're like, seriously, guys, like how long have you been checking people in the hotels? It's like you're trying to get the nuclear codes to get your fucking key to go to your room, right?
We had that experience. We got locked out of our hotel.
You knew I was coming.
Yeah.
I booked. And then it's like when you go to doctors and you book online, they've got your name and everything. It's like a government.
They treat you like a stranger. They're like, where's your ID? And you're like, I booked you. Yeah.
It's like a government sending you a letter going, can you fill in this form and tell us your address? I'm like, you just sent me a fucking letter in the mail, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, so I see frustrated problems all the time.
Yeah.
But what I really look for, Dane, is how are you going to take this to market at scale? So with this, it's a $2,000 toilet, right?
Yeah.
So there's enough
solve a
margin.
problem, find the margin.
There's enough gross margin, like in that, for me to go and spend $200 or $300 per customer to acquire a customer on Google. If you're selling salt and pepper shakers for $25, you can't spend the $200 required. You don't have the budget to advertise. And so with this, I've got enough budget to advertise. And so that's what I look for. Where's the margin? And that's
what kind of margins do you look for on a product?
Well, it's not just percentage. It's gross dollar.
Gross dollar.
You know, like you might sell supplements that you're buying for, you got a bottle of pills for $25 that you buy for $5.
Yeah.
The margin's amazing, but you've only got $20 to buy attention.
Right. So
you got to, the margin, it's not enough to buy attention.
That's an interesting way of looking at it, because a lot of people go, I have a great product. It's better than the competitors. Therefore, I'm going to win. And, you know, what you're saying is, well, are you solving a problem? Is that problem solving going to get attention? And then how much money can you spend per item for attention?
Totally.
Before you even look at the profit.
For marketing. Where's your marketing line?
Yeah.
And other people go, oh, I'm going to sell this thing door to door. Okay, that's great. If you're not paying yourself, great. But what does an actual salesperson cost to recruit, retain, and inspire?
Yeah.
Is there enough margin for you to stop, or are you just going to be a chump that goes door to door to door and you've just bought yourself a job?
Yeah.
So what does it actually cost? Like rival media, if you didn't have Instagram, if your model wasn't your Instagram account, and which you've done really smart, but if you couldn't do that in your business and it required a sales force, then all of a sudden everything's different, right? So people don't think about that. They think I've got a better product that's marginally better than the competitors. And this is why Amazon works so well, is because the distribution was sorted. And that's the mistake that most small business people make. You just create, you can look at a marketplace for salt and pepper shakers. If it is marginally better and at a better price or the same price, then you can win.
Right.
Because all you need to do is put it onto Amazon, and in America, $1 and $2 spent in e-commerce across the whole country is spent on one website, and that's Amazon.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's actually a little bit more. Amazon does more trade on its own than every e-commerce in America combined. So you think about Apple,
Christ.
Nike, all the mega brands,
Yeah.
all their e-com traffic and sales volume is less than Amazon on its own.
No.
So you can be sitting in Ulladulla in Australia selling surf wax to 300 million Americans, and they will distribute it out of their American warehouses, and you can get it in front of 300 million eyeballs. And then if you want to go and add another 500 million, just put it into the European warehouses.
Right.
So
yeah,
in that environment,
the distribution
distribution's
channel,
taken care.
the
Yes.
vehicle almost that you can hop in with your idea.
That's the power of a platform. So if
Yeah.
you're going to sell on Amazon or whatever, then yeah, you don't need, that's the hack, is create something visually differentiated that is better than what's on page one of Amazon now, or some little tweak, preferably that you can patent. But if you're outside of a marketplace environment, how are people going to know about you? And so an idea, when I'm looking at it, is A, it's got to be a great product, solves a real problem. But B, part of that is the hardcore business stuff. How are you going to sell this at a profit?
Like, is this idea gonna actually make coin?
Yes, and does it
and
have
is it enough to spend?
Yeah, great ideas. Like, there's a lot of people with great ideas, but the ability to execute is a financial one these days as well.
So would you say, like, in the event of, I guess, creating a product brand like what you would put on Amazon, in the event of like a service-based business, could they go from idea? Do you think that someone that's creating a service needs as much capital, or would you kind of apply the same model? Or
No, a service business, if I was to run this discussion with them, is okay. You start off providing the service yourself, right? But does it still work with a person in the role? And when you leave,
can you duplicate yourself?
Yeah. So the beautiful thing about the animation company, right, was I moved to America. And my visa meant that I had to be successful in business. If I wasn't successful, I was out of there. And so because I couldn't draw, because nobody wanted an Australian voiceover actor in America, and because I couldn't animate or do any of that stuff, that business, I sat down and went, okay, what's it going to cost to have an animator, a storyboard artist, a voice actors, a salesperson? These are all the costs. How much do I need to charge per video and still have a risk premium, which is otherwise known as a profit, that's appropriate for the risk that I'm undertaking? And for me, it's 20% minimum in business. If I'm not making 20% after paying everybody else to do everything, it's not a business.
Yeah.
You may as well just give your money to a 9% first mortgage fund and relax, rather than go and take on the risk of business if you're not getting at least double that, in my mind, because it is more than double as risky, right? So that the beautiful thing was, it had to work without me. And if it didn't work that way, I didn't start it. So I started off being the PPC guy. I sucked at that, so I had to immediately replace myself to get the ads being done by somebody else. I was the salesperson, and I outsourced all of production to India, right? All of the drawing and everything. And I would make the sale and then be the service layer between the customer and the Indian animation team. Yeah. And I developed a system for the storyboarding and a system for the voiceover acting and all of that. And I recruited some voice actors in Los Angeles, and then it scaled until we're doing 300-400 projects a year. Wow. And then I sold the business in 2015. But it worked. And when I went to sell the business, people were like, what do you do in the business? I'm like, nothing. Like, literally nothing. Like, I've got an accountant, I've got a bookkeeper, I've got these 10 voice actors we work with, these are the storyboard artists, and it was completely systemized, and that was a real business. And it had margin for a PPC manager, PPC cost of traffic, and all that good stuff.
So with the capital part of ICE, so let's just say idea check, got the idea, it's going to make money, litmus tested it, it's good to go. So I guess back to product then, because thank you for kind of diving into the service-based thing, because you can kind of be the capital in the beginning. You can use your time, I guess. But yeah, capital, man. So like, if you look at capital, this is something that is like an obstacle for a lot of people. You know, they have an idea, they're excited about it, and they don't start anything. Yeah. They're just kind of stuck. They're frozen. They're in procrastination mode, and they're scared, because I guess like a lot of people's relationship with money is maybe not a good thing. Like, you grew up in, you know, a working class, as did I had a single mother. And, you know, you grow up and you think like, you know, money is for people that are evil. And you think, you know, money is not a bad thing. It's a stressful debt, scary thing. And I think if people are trying to break out of that mindset, it can be quite confronting and terrifying. I remember when I first quit my job, I had, you know, good money coming in. I had like $70,000 in my PayPal, and I was scared to death to quit my job because it was so wired into me.
Yeah.
And I remember just being like paranoid every day, losing sleep, like just freaking out. But it was just this transition of like, I make my money through my organization now. I don't depend on an employer. And it was quite a big shift.
Yes.
So for someone that maybe is employed and they're looking at, I got this incredible idea, how do they start to cash roll it? Where would someone begin to start that journey? Would they save money? Like what's been your approach?
Yeah, look, people's education around money, it's one thing to sort of read a book and have an education, but the overriding beliefs that we have about money can be super, super limiting. But just understanding that, there's a lot of money in the world. There's a lot of credit available. There's a lot of people who have surplus cash that they want to invest in things. And what's generally lacking is people who haven't done enough of the education piece that we talked about earlier.
Right.
You know, where they've really gotten intelligent about what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because it cannot not change you when you consume that much information. It changes who you are and how you feel to be around, especially around people who've also done the same learning.
Yeah.
But getting down to sort of brass tacks, to bring it down to like, you know, what do you do when your head's screwed up about money is, it's a journey, right? Like, if you have to, like, a lot of people are like, they've drilled into their head, you know, don't borrow money, don't use credit cards, don't do this, don't do that, you know, because we know that credit cards are high interest and all those sorts of things. But in life, the truth, and this is something a lot of people sell, is you don't need money to start things. Well, you do. You know, it costs money just to incorporate a company and to pay for the compliance. You know, proprietary limited companies, like $1,000 or something to set it up, and then you got the account and the bookkeeping, and you do need some money, and you do need to be prepared to go after it. But the way I think about it, like for example with the toilets, I invest a couple $100,000 into that. But
At the very beginning?
At the very beginning. And I went and I just knew it would sell because I was the only distributor for it. So if you want one, you have to buy it from me, right?
Right.
You can't get it.
You have a
else.
monopoly in the market.
Yeah. So I knew that it would work, and I look at it, go, okay, I'm going to allocate $200,000 here, but it's a very calculated risk. 6 months later, National Australia Bank, I went to them and their inventory financing team and said, listen, here's my product, here's my sales. Can you give me inventory financing? So for those of you who don't know what that is, NAB's the best at this. They basically go, okay, well, we'll give you, based on your sales, a line of credit, let's say for $150,000. And when I order the toilets from the US, they pay the invoice and they give me 6 months to repay it back. And in that time, it'll be on the water for a month. And I've got 5 months to sell it. Well, I'll turn those toilets over in 3 months. So basically, that $200,000 I put in, they gave me a $150,000 facility. I was able to pull my money back out of the business and use the bank's money now to finance my growth. Yeah. And so these facilities are out there, and whenever I need toilets now, and they charge 10%. Roughly, depending on your credit profile, but about 10%. But because you've only got it for 6 months, the facility, I basically pay $5,000 on a $100,000 line of credit. Yeah. So $5,000, I can buy $100,000 worth of inventory, which I'll sell for $250,300. Yeah. Right. So I'm using other people's money. OPM. OPM. So I've literally got $50,000 in this business that does already. I'm only 6 months into that business. We're doing over $1 million a year. Wow. So you put in $200,000. Yep. The bank gives you a line of credit, and afterwards, then so after that, and then you take your money back out. Yep. And then now I'm playing with the bank's money. You're playing with the bank's money, and now it's making profit, and you can pay the bank off, and then the business has got its surplus. When I sat down with them, they said, "Adam, in your business, you know all the big guys do this, right? Like they just use our money, so they get all these products coming in from all over the world. We finance it." They just distribute it out. They have their sales channels and everything going. And but we finance the inventory, so they just use their money for marketing or whatever else.
Do you feel like it makes it less emotional? Like you're less paranoid or scared to use the bank's money?
Well, I still worry about obviously making sure that the money comes back, but it's really interesting that the bank is geared up and willing to lend on businesses that can say, hey, the market is buying this product. Yeah. So I did it for 6 months and they said, yeah, we'll give you the money for it because we're in the business of lending money. We just want to know that the market wants the product or whatever you sell.
Yeah.
So
just to interrupt you, sorry. So you put in 200, you were making money selling the product and you have a proof.
Yeah, we went from we did $5,000 in our first month, I think it was, and then we did $15,000, and then we did $30,000, and then we did $50,000 for the month, and I just take the sales into the bank and I'm like, that's great, it's going well, and they lend on that basis. But there are a lot of people out there that if you take that kind of performance to them, so what I'm sort of getting at is to bring it down to basics for people is start with the minimum amount just to get proof of concept.
Okay.
What a lot of people want to do is they go, oh, I need $200,000 from the start for their very first thing. When you go, look, just go out and prove that it actually works. Like go from 0 to 1. Like at the moment you've got a 0 evidence, try to get to a 1, that the market actually is willing to buy the thing that you're trying to sell at the price you need to sell it at in order for it to be a sustainable business. Yeah. And it's not sell it at a discount, not sell it at if you don't pay yourself.
Like prove the actual business model.
What's the real price that it has to be in order for it to be sustainable? Find that out as quickly as possible. Go and spend $2,000 on a credit card with Google ads and just see if people click on those ads, call you up and place an order. And you can find out for $2,000. You could even actually find out without having the product, you can actually run the ads, take the phone calls. And if they say, yeah, how do I get one? You say, well, actually they're in development. They won't be available for a few months. We were just doing a test to see how the market would receive it. You're better off spending that $2,000 to find that out than spending 6 months on product development for something nobody wants.
Right. Have you seen that happen where people have tested an idea and then realize, okay, this doesn't work?
Yeah, I've done it.
Yeah.
I've spent months. I had a tech project that I spent $700,000 on, and I could have tested it for far less in hindsight, and it failed. Yeah. And I lost $700,000 setting up because I just didn't do that. Thinking it all the way through and testing it much earlier in the process.
Yeah. So the idea is thinking everything all the way through as if it exists, as if it's real, testing it live somehow, whether that's using a credit card just to see if people respond or react to it. And then like assuming that goes really well, then invest more, create a proof, a case study that it works, then go to the bank and then
bank or investors or wherever else. There's, if you've got a proven thing that's scaling and it's turning $1 into $2 with reliability, then finding partners or finding investors. There's so many people out there in our old community, Reliable. There's so many people there that would love to partner with you, like somebody who's actually started the fire. Yeah. Even if it's like, hey, look, I've spent $2. I'm every $2 I'm getting $4. I spend right now about $7,000 a month on ads, and it turns into $80,000 a month. Yeah. Right. So if I turn around to anybody I meet in the street and said, hey, for every $1 you give me, I'm going to turn it into $8.
Be no brainer, man.
It's easy to find partners with those terms, but people, that just don't realize the importance of doing that and going out there.
So for someone maybe who isn't as, I guess, well connected in a community as you have been, like where might be a first place that someone could go and seek an investor potentially?
It's getting out to all the events. Like I met you through One Life, with Simon and Emil and those guys, and it's great. Like
just getting in the room with those kinds of people.
Getting in the room and going to meetups and being proactive about meeting people. Yeah. And also, as soon as you get serious, like really, like this is what I'm dedicating my life to, your world will change. It's a bit like if you go and buy yourself a new Commodore, right? Everywhere you go, you see that Commodore, right? They call it the reticular activating system in your brain. It focuses on what you're interested in at this moment, because most of it, what our brain does is tune things out.
Right. So it's like when I want that red Ferrari And
Yeah,
then you start seeing it
them
everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah.
What's it called?
It's called the reticular activating system. So the way
Okay.
the brain works is most of the day it's tuning things out that are of no risk or unimportant to us, and it's
Yeah.
actually just highlighting the things that are important to us
Right.
or are dangerous to us. So when you reorganize your priorities and whatever you're doing, all of a sudden people start appearing in your life, and you go, "Oh, dude, like that's interesting. That's interesting." Like.
You notice the opportunities a bit, and you
Totally.
identify them a bit differently.
They jump out at you, and opportunities being people. There are people coming across your path all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just getting really, really clear, and just removing in your brain saying, look, there's no lack of money. That what's missing.
Just shifting that thought pattern.
There is no lack of money, and as you get further down the road, you start to see and learn different ways to attract money and how money actually works. But that held me back for the longest time. And I was always thought there was a silver bullet outside of me being amazing with an amazing idea. There's not.
Yeah, it's almost like, have you studied NLP?
Yeah.
Because I know Jim Rohn had, and for those that don't know, Jim Rohn was, mentoring Tony Robbins for a long time, and met Tony. I think Tony went to one of his events when he was 19.
That's right.
And what's the name of Jim Rohn's coach? Earl Shoaff.
Earl Shoaff.
And then his coach was Dale Carnegie, or like there's this lineage of like mindset coaches that had incredible amounts of execution in their businesses. But for me, it's almost like because when I saw you on stage, I was working a full-time job at Telstra, and I had like $200K debt, and I kind of went through this, I guess, stage in my life where I was like, I'm not gonna blame anything anymore. I'm not going to blame my boss. I'm not going to blame my mother, my family, my friends. It's not, I'm in control. And then when I shifted that think process, everything kind of started to maneuver differently in my life. Like it's almost like doors of opportunities started flying open because I was in control. And one thing that Jim Rohn says that I always go back to and I love, which is when he says, okay, imagine you're at the altar and your beautiful wife, or, for those that have a husband, is there. And the priest says, in sickness and health, you take this person, devoting yourself to them. And if you said to them, well, we'll try it and we'll see how it goes. Like, how long is that marriage going to last? And Jim Rohn's just joking that like building a business is like that. If you're at the altar, you have to kind of like have that conviction and commit despite all the problems that are going to come behind it. And back to your problem with your frustration with the personal development space, you were passionate about it, but then also frustrated about how it was operated, and you committed to the idea. What's the difference between, I guess, having an idea that you think is going to monetize and then something that you're like hell bent on running through walls to make happen? Do you think that energy has to always be there, or is it case by case?
Yeah, I mean, if you're willing to run through walls to make it happen on a bad idea, you're just not going to come out the winner.
Yeah.
One thing about young people today is a lot of the time they're like, I need to be building something that's going to change the world. And I'm
Impact 1 billion lives.
Yeah. I'm like, dude, like, I'm happy to sell toilets. Like if you make $1 million a year selling toilets, let me give you the tip. You get pretty passionate about that.
Yeah.
Right. You can't impact the world with no money.
Yeah.
Right. Love doesn't get you on the bus. A bus fare gets you on the bus.
Right.
Right. So my wife runs our nonprofit today, and that's her thing. But I started years ago with Reliable. One of the things we did in our community was for every course we sold, we would donate, first of all, interest-free microloan to an entrepreneur in a third world country.
Wow.
And we became one of the biggest lenders in the world. We did 17,000 interest-free microloans. Wow. So for every course we did one.
Yeah.
We had built a massive portfolio. And then we also sponsored eye surgeries in Indonesia, and we ended up buying a hospital. We raised nearly $300,000 at one event to build a hospital, a mobile hospital.
Yeah.
And so I've been going to Indonesia for years now, guiding tours with our students who come up with us. They make a donation, they come with us, that 100% goes to the charity. So today we have wholeheartedly, which is my wife's nonprofit.
Can we pull it up?
The website's not up yet. She's just putting it now. So
okay.
She's in the hotel right now, just about to push the button on it. But so she runs that. But
Loveheart.org.
Yeah, loveheart.org. And it's basically travel experience to Bali, and she's launching one to Sri Lanka to orphanages. We just came back actually from Sri Lanka where we did the orphanages stuff. So all of this is to say that we can sell toilets, But because we have money, we can actually make a real impact in the world. And she's raised in the last 3 months $70,000 for the people of Indonesia for eyesights, and we go up there and I don't know today how many we've done, but it would be probably close to 20,000 blind people.
Wow, man, this is
incredible.
incredible.
That were completely blind 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Are now seeing. So that has nothing to do with whether you're selling candlesticks or dildos. What it right?
Same shape, but different product.
Yeah, but one thing I can tell you: if you don't make money, it doesn't matter. You can't make an impact in the world. But if you are making money, you can make an impact in the world. So don't get it twisted. Like business, the currency of business primarily is there are good people selling average items all day long, and there are shit people selling. It's just not correlated. Right?
Yeah. So you've seen probably tens of thousands of businesses, get off the ground, and how often would you say someone is kind of not winging it, but they're kind of executing, right? Let's get into the execution part of it. Let's say they got the idea, they got a bit of capital, they got something to kind of get it moving. The execution part of it, like what is the mentality and like maybe the behaviors and then the tactics that you see?
That's a great question. So one of the things is trying to remain objective when you launch a business, because people are so emotional, right, about losing money. Because in this country, particularly in Australia, we have people like when you step up and you go, I'm going to start Rival Media. I'm going to go out on my own. I'm going to do this. Secretly, a lot of people that are in your world, if you're coming out of the bucket still, like I call it the crabs in the bucket. There's always people want to put you back in the bucket. Secretly, people are going, oh, hey, to your face, Dane, oh, that's so exciting. And then they sit back and buy the popcorn and just can't wait
to watch you fail.
To watch you fail.
And be like, I knew it.
Because launching a business is a bit like going up skydiving, right? And you go up in the plane, you strap on your chute, and then you go, what the fuck was I thinking, right? And you're looking down, you're surveying the land. I'm going to jump into that area of the jungle over there.
Yeah.
Right? That's my spot. I reckon I can dominate there, right? And then everybody else is watching from the ground with the binoculars going, Dane's about to jump. Watch this, boys. This could be good. This could be real good. And they're sitting there waiting for you to fail, right?
Yeah.
So the mindset that I think is so important when you start is you are going to be emotional. You are going to be this way about it. But it's so important that you're objective, like just going, hey, listen, I'm going to build the best web page I can. I'm going to get a guy who knows about running traffic to that web page, and then I'm going to turn the ads on, and I'm going to talk to people, and I'm going to see if I can sell it. And I could be wrong. And it's really important, right? Now, this is very counterintuitive from the personal development movement that goes like, never, never, never give up.
Right.
But the rest of that quote from Winston Churchill is, except to convictions of higher knowledge, right? Or something to that effect. Unless you find a different truth, basically. Oh. That you were wrong. Right?
It's like the jack of all trades quote.
Give up.
Yeah.
Fast.
Yeah.
It's like if you end up going into a relationship and the girl's awesome, but then she's a complete psychopath.
Yeah.
When you get to know her better, get out.
Yeah.
Right? Don't stay, right?
We can make it work no matter what.
I've read my Tony Robbins book, Never Quit, right? And you're just going to run into brick wall after brick wall, and you're going to wake up 40 and broke and discouraged.
You got to know when to pivot, when to walk away, when to transition.
Know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, know when to run.
Yeah.
And so you got to go into it. And that's really counterintuitive, because you go, oh, I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to. So you got to go and say, I'm going to do everything I can. So what I do is I go, what are the things that need to happen in order for this sale to occur? I need a great website. I need traffic going to that website. I need people to call me, right? And then I need to talk to real customers and tell them the price and say, would you like one, right? Now, if it's not working, I don't quit immediately. What I do is I sit down and I write down a list of everything I could possibly do that I'm not doing, because there's inevitably things that you have just been lazy on, like, have I optimized the site? Have I spoken to an optimization expert? So go to clarity.fm, right, which is a website where you can hire people by the minute, like Uber for advice.
Okay.
Right? So you put your
clarity.fm.
Yeah. It's an Uber for advice. You put your credit card in, there's a per minute rate to speak to an expert, and these are legit experts on stuff. So find the number one website conversion person near the industry you're in and just pay them $10 a minute, speak to them for 15 minutes or an hour. Spend the few $100s if necessary. They look at your website, and they go, oh man, this is what you're doing wrong. And then you change that. And if it still doesn't work and you've done the other 5 things that you audited yourself, it still doesn't work, you maybe just...
Because there's a lot of things that can go wrong with a website. The photography, the copy, the design.
Could be your ad
the
guys
UX, the UI, the SEO. There's so many things.
You've got to isolate all the things, if it's not working, that you could possibly be doing better. And then you got to go fix those things as fast as you can. In Silicon Valley, they say fail fast and fail forward, which means figure out as fast as you can why it's not working. Is it fundamentally that your idea just isn't a product market fit? That's the terminology. Is there a product market fit? With our Amazon course, there was a product market fit. Australia wanted to learn how to sell on Amazon to Americans from Australia, get paid in US dollars. They wanted it, right? And they wanted it from somebody who was not a dickhead. And that's basically was my business model. People want to learn it, and they want to learn it from somebody who's straight up with it.
And don't be a dickhead.
Don't be a dick.
Yeah.
You know, that was actually in our terms of service. We had a no dickhead policy. And that's why we interviewed everybody.
Yeah.
So we interviewed our clients after they signed up to make sure they weren't a dickhead.
Yeah.
And so that was the premise of my business. Quality education delivered by non-dickheads. And yes, that was a product market fit, and boom, we had fire, right? But sometimes you go, actually, Australia doesn't really care about selling on Amazon. That you were wrong. We weren't wrong, but we could have been. The toilets, I was right. People do want a better toilet solution. They are prepared to pay $2,000 for a quality American-made product, right? Product market fit. So you've got to figure out really quick, as inexpensively as possible, do you have product market fit or not? And be open to the fact you could be wrong, because a lot of smart people are passionately wrong.
Yeah, and be open to the fact there may be leaks in your bucket.
Yeah.
Your website might be leaking. You don't know it. Get an expert to come in and consult.
Your chances of getting it right the first time are super low.
Yeah.
And accept that as a new entrepreneur, it's not if you're going to fail, you are going to fail.
Yeah.
Go and get punched in the face and get used to it.
It's inevitable.
That's life. If you think you're going to get into boxing and not get hit, dude, don't go into entrepreneurship. You're going to get kicked in the nuts, the fucking face, everything. But the question comes back to, what kind of life do you want?
Yeah.
That's it. Get over the fact you're going to fail. You are.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because, like, you know, Gary Vee talks about how entrepreneurship is kind of now cool.
Yeah.
It's a popular, cool thing to do.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, when, you know, even when I was growing up as a kid, it wasn't like very public that was a cool thing. Like, I didn't have social media when I was a kid, not until I was like 14. We had MySpace or whatever. But would you say, like, there's an X factor or a benefit to kind of knowing about the world of business pre-social media as what it is today? Do you think there's some skills or something that may be operating in that world that can help in this world?
I think the biggest thing is not really, that's sort of how I would frame it. But I think the biggest learning, if you're thinking about old world, new world, Gary Vee is the king of this.
Yeah.
Young people today seriously do not realize how freaking amazing and powerful social media is. That oh my God, like I had dinner the other night with a young kid who follows me on Instagram. They both live here in Sydney actually, and I've been mentoring one of them since he was 16. He turned up at one of my events, and I just looked at this kid, and he was just full of beans and optimism. And I just said, mate, if you ever want to have a chat, just let me know. I just sort of point him in the right direction. He's now 23. And they rang me the other day and said, we're coming up to Brisbane, me and my business partner, can we take you to dinner as a thank you? And they took me out to dinner. The other kid, Chris, he went on TikTok 8 weeks ago, right? Organically on TikTok. And he started talking about his breakup with his girlfriend. Now, admittedly, he's a good looking rooster, and his girlfriend was hot. They broke up, and he just did these videos just saying, this is what I'm dealing with. This is what I'm going through. Mm-hmm. You've got 500,000 organic followers in 8 weeks. He showed me the metrics. He's had 53 million unique views of his videos in 8 weeks.
Wow.
I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I grew up delivering newspapers on a BMX. And
I did too, man.
Yeah,
I
got
kid.
paid 13 cents a paper or some shit. I can't remember.
I did it in Rockhampton when I was a kid.
Yeah,
I
did it
the
in
paper.
Canberra, got chased by dogs and swooped by magpies. My income was limited to how far I could ride my BMX after school.
Right.
There was no social media. There was no internet.
The reach is insane.
It's bananas in 8 weeks.
Yeah.
I met with a friend of mine, a young real estate agent who's crushing it. He's 22, makes $700,000 in net income last year, not gross commissions, in his pocket after 2 years in real estate, right? And I'm like, he's got a mentor who's one of my best friends. And I said to who's one of the top, I think the top Ray White commercial agents in the country is his mentor. And I said to him, mate, you need to get all the values of my friend, right, who's the agent who's mentoring him. You need to get all of those values and follow everything he said, but amplify it on social media. And you will get to what's taken 30 years for him to achieve. You'll get there in 3.
Yeah.
You know, it is the atomic bomb of business, and it's in everybody's young hands now, but people are not paying attention to it strongly enough. And I was late to this party because I was buying traffic. Like I was spending $3 million a year on traffic in my education business and doing 15, to 20.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't pay attention to organic. And it's funny, when you DM'd me, the Gary Vee event, I told you this story, but I didn't know, but Dane DM'd me.
Yeah, you can share the story. It's kind of funny.
It's a funny
I
story.
love it.
It's a great story. He was in the audience. I was on stage with Gary Vee. And at that time, things were pumping in my life. It was crazy, crazy busy. And he sends me a message saying, could we catch up? I was inspired by your talk or whatever. Now, me being a dickhead, I didn't respond, right? But I didn't even know, right? Until I was at the One Life event, saw Dane on stage. I didn't know who he was. I just watched him and he was going on about how he hates the industry. I'm like, yeah, well, I was one of those guys on stage, right? Anyway, we connected after the One Life event, and then he DM'd me again. And so here I am. I look at Dane, 600,000 followers on Instagram. Or what have you got?
Yeah, 580 there. Almost
600,000.
Yeah.
So, and I see the message above was from 2018. Hey, my name's Dane, can we catch up? And no response from me. And I'm like, you fucking asshole, right? Like, here's this kid who was in the audience who's now got 600,000. Meanwhile, I've got like 30,000 followers. This guy's got 600,000. Huge lesson in that for me. I'm like, this guy smashed it. And I've just like, you activated me. And you know this, right? Because you got on stage at One Life and said, this is how I did it. I just spent 3 months locked down, committed to Instagram. I went all in on it. And I went, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to do exactly the same thing. And so I walked out of One Life. I didn't really know how to grow my Instagram. I just watched you, and I watched Matt Purcell, and I watched all these guys. And every young person who's crushing it, I just asked them, like, what are you doing? Like when I went with Chris, I said, how do you make your video like that? How you got the blurry background? He goes, oh, it's cinematic effect. I'm like, good to know. That's how fucking dumb I am, right, with this stuff. But I started posting every single day. The asset I had was I had 3,000 videos in my library.
Perfect.
Literally.
Yeah.
Right? Like we did 3,000 videos in 6 years. It's bananas, right? But I never used them, right? So I got my editor, hired some editors and da-da-da. And I made a lot of mistakes, but my account grew dramatically. It went from 23 to over 30,000 in 6 weeks.
Wow.
And I texted you and I was like, Dane, this shit's awesome. And I've got my DMs now on fire. I've got people like, dude, how can we work to this and that and da-da-da-da-da. And I've gotten so much better at it. So anyway, the point is, to close this point off, is that the old world people like me, like when I was your age, I got my first email address. That was just something like we'd all sit around and go, you got an email address? What's email? And we'd start talking to each other and the
dial-up. I remember being like 12 years old. I had a girlfriend, and she's like, "Do you have an email?" And I was like, "What's an email?" She's like, "We can talk at night if you've got MSN." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I remember going home,
crazy.
Windows 95 PC, going to hotmail.com, creating a terrible username.
So one of my first
Jumping
ideas
on
was to launch hotfemale.com to see what
Hotfemale.com.
I thought that was a good idea, but yeah, anyway, so that's what I would sort of signal to people listening to this is if you've got those business principles that we've talked about here, that you understand you need a great idea, you need to get your head around capital, and then you just need to execute, and you're either on your own or with other people. And if you're starting out, don't try to be a hero. What you want to do, like real entrepreneurs have multiple businesses usually through their life. Don't try to keep it all to yourself. Your job when you're first starting out is to have a win. Even if that win is only to go from, you turned $2,000 into $10,000, or you turn $10,000 into a little business that, makes $10,000 a month. That business is worth $100,000. Easily, because 10 grand a month profit is 120 a year. You'll sell it for easily 120, probably 250, right? If you can go and sell your first business for 100 grand or 200 grand, man, you are a rock star.
Yeah.
And the opportunities that are going to come to you at that level is different, right? Like it's relational, and just so get the idea, get the capital, get a team with you that can execute and go from 0 to 1.
Yeah.
And And if you combine those basic principles with the power of social media, and if some of you are listening right now going, oh yeah, but I haven't got the gift of the gab like Adam, or I'm not as cool as Dane, right? There are so many ways to build social media now that isn't like when I was touring with Gary, I was backstage in Auckland having a chat with him. He said, dude, we've got clients that are crushing it with cartoons on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Wow.
They've built massive followings who are got a business brain, but are great at visually demonstrating through cartoons, and they've built enormous followings. There's accounts on YouTube that have no face to them, where they're
just
great
narration.
at narration
Yeah.
using an AI voice, and then B-roll, which and that whole AI space now.
Yeah.
So just go from 0 to 1. I saw an amazing video of a kid the other day. He said, I wanted to start my own AI company, which writes viral scripts for Instagram.
Right.
And so he used a no-code developer. It was $1,200. And so he said, I can put that on a credit card. So he documented the whole thing in a video. And I might give you the link so you can drop it in the notes for people to watch. And he said, this is my journey of launching my first AI company with $1,200.
Wow.
And the bit that he had the idea, he was able to get the capital from a credit card. And then he goes, but I need to execute. I don't know how, it's only $10 a month to subscribe. So I haven't got any money for Google. So how do I do this? So he reached out to these YouTubers who had big AI focused accounts. And he said, I'll give you, I think it was 50% of the company if you partner with me.
Wow.
And so he chose one guy who on his YouTube account said, hey, we've got this new product. I think it was called a script writer or AI script or something. I'll give you the link anyway.
Yeah, we'll put it in. We'll put it in the show notes. In the show notes, yeah.
And so this kid then had a YouTube guy promoting it. And
is it Script AI?
It might be Script AI. I'm not sure.
That's all right. We
but
can look it up later.
Very simple, and I don't think it's that one. I'll send it to you. But it was and I was just like, that's a perfect idea, capital, and executing. He realized his weakness was the executing. He didn't have distribution. So once you get that model into your brain, you go, okay, do I really have the skills to distribute this? If it's a low cost product, how are you going to distribute it? Well, go and get an influencer who has the attention. And like you, right? You've got power now because you've got 600,000 followers. So what would be a logical product that Dane could endorse and give him half your business and go from 0 to 1?
Yeah.
Right? And then it's easy for Dane to say yes to because it's a product market fit for his audience if it's a really great product. And so on. So I've got a couple of products in development right now that I'm going to distribute to my followers because a lot of my followers are interested in peak health and different things as well at 50, like I'm 50 now nearly. So yeah, if there's a great product market fit, you just need distribution, which is the execution piece.
Yeah. And I think execution, it's, there's no one roadmap. I think oftentimes you probably get asked this as well. When I speak at events, people are like, what's the one thing I need to do? And the best formula that you can really distill it into is like idea meets capital meets execution. That's as raw as it really gets.
If someone came to me and said, "Hey, listen, I've got this product which is this amazing health drink that's nootropic," right?
Yeah.
And I go, "Okay,
that's a big trend right now." Yeah.
Yeah, you got a nootropic shake. Okay, cool. And what's great about it? Well, it's got 5 things in it instead of 1. Everybody else has got 1 thing. This is 5 things. I'm like, okay. Great. How much money? And you go, I need money. I'm like, okay, well, before we talk about the money, how are you going to sell it? And they're like, well, my best friend is Kim Kardashian. And I'm like, oh, okay, so you got distribution. If it's Kim Kardashian. Well, she's probably not the best fit. But let's say it's Joe Rogan who's into that stuff.
Great fit.
Yeah. So Joe Rogan's my best friend. He's agreed to distribute it, but we need $500,000 to create the supply. If I can verify that Joe Rogan is prepared to endorse this thing, if there's $500,000 bids, I will invest, right? Because you've got the idea, you've got the execution. All that's missing is the capital. That's what I mean by.
Okay, so sometimes the gap they've got both ends.
Yeah,
the capital is the challenge.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to have the margin in it for traditional traffic because you've got Joe.
And there's so many ways to create a marketing mix. Like, we were looking at the trends, and Matt talked about this. Matt Purcell, shout out to Matt. We were looking at like the power of a personal brand currently is insane. Like you used to have gatekeepers to become a famous celebrity. Like if you wanted to make it in Hollywood, you had to bust it for 10 years. If you wanted to be a musician, you relied on the record labels. Now you can distribute straight to SoundCloud, or you can just produce film and put it straight on YouTube. Like it's, like you said, I think like the the old economy was shaking hands, cold calling, door knocking, like the old school stuff. What I think is special though is if you can kind of bring some of that skill set into social media. Like you've weaponized your social media immediately. And a lot of people, I had a guy in here just yesterday, 15 million views, 10 million followers, doesn't know how to monetize. You know,
He needs to see Matt.
Yeah.
That's where I'm going after this podcast. I'm going to hang out with Matt for his training today.
Yeah.
He's a legend, right? Just such a smart
He's
young guy.
incredible
Guy. But
he's working with Janine Ellis. He's working with,
Mark Burris, all these guys. And
smart guy.
He's a very smart, lovely person too.
Yeah.
But, you know, you don't need a big following. Like I've only got a relatively small following, right?
Yeah.
This is what woke me up. I thought, you know, and I wouldn't mind doing a seminar. I just sold a couple of properties. So I wanted to teach commercial property. I sold 2 of my buildings recently for just under $10 million, which I bought for, 3, right? So I sold them. The sale was in the newspaper, and I had people saying, hey, you know, how do you invest in commercial property? I'm like, you know what? I haven't done any speaking for ages. I'm just going to put on a 2-day event where I teach commercial property and what I'm doing now with my toilets business. That was it. That was the whole thing, right? I don't want to fuck around with a fancy landing page. I didn't want to send an email to my database, nothing. I just went onto my Instagram account. This is before before I fired it all up. I was doing nothing, man. I was just sitting there with 23,000 followers. I'd post. I think I'd done 6 posts in 18 months.
Wow.
Nothing. So I went on there. I put up a post that, hey guys, I'm thinking about doing this 2-day event. Here's a sale that was in the paper. I'm not telling you this to boast. I'm telling you just to show that I know what I'm talking about. I want to show you how I did this. I created millions of dollars of profit into my pocket in under 3 years. If you want to learn it, I'm going to do a 2-day event. It's at this place. It's $2,500 a ticket. I'm not going to do it unless there's 50 people turn up because I can't be fucked. Putting in the time to put together the deck and all the effort, unless that's what I would need to make in order for me to put on the show I want to put on and to spend the time necessary to put this together at the level I want to do it. So it's 50 people minimum. Pay me now. Just DM me. I'll give you my bank details. I don't even have a credit card processor, right? I'll just give you my bank details. Send me a screenshot of the money going in. If it gets cancelled because I can't get 50 people to come, I'll just refund you.
Yeah.
Right? That was it. Right? That was my pitch. I did 6 posts on Instagram.
Yeah.
6 posts. 0 cost of marketing. Had $170,000 in sales in 5 days.
Dude.
Right?
Wow.
In 5 days. And you know what that was?
That's the OG shit I'm talking about.
Because
it's
people
the hustle.
trust you.
Yeah.
Like, my currency is trust.
Yeah.
And Matt talks about, you know, there's relevancy and then there's authority.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have relevancy, as in people are watching them. There's hundreds of thousands, but they can't go out there and say, hey, come and give me $2,500 to learn about making money because I don't fucking know how to
but
do
you
that.
have that credibility because you
I
like
got the result. I got a $10 million sale in my hand here, you know?
I've been bringing your name up all week and everyone's like, yeah, I know that guy.
Yeah,
I've been to one of his
big
events.
audience, but I've got credibility because I've done 75 million in sales on that last business. I've done tens of millions of sales in other businesses. So I've got credibility, right? And that there's only one way to get credibility, and that's through doing the work. You can't buy it. You can't buy the followers.
Can't fake it.
You can't
flaunt it.
You can't. It doesn't matter that I don't look like, you know, some good looking dude. Like I'm an average looking guy, but I've got the results. And so that's the real hard earned thing. And in social media, the frame is what matters. And a lot of people who do have the success have got to get better at putting the frame around that success. Like Alex Hormozi said, you know, if you're at a party and somebody comes up, I know we're almost out of time here. Somebody comes up to Alex and says, you're at a party and you're talking to somebody and that person, you're just like, oh yeah, whatever. And they walk away. And then somebody comes over and says, you know, that guy you were talking to is a billionaire. And you're like, what the fuck? I should have listened. I should ask some more questions, right? Because the frame just changed.
Yeah.
And so the frame does matter. And in Australia, that does not come natural to people. Like you look at Simon Beard, right?
Yeah.
Simon is so fucking low key. It's so under the radar. Like if you saw Simon just at a coffee shop or
you'd have no idea.
Nothing. He's dressed in like you, in the Culture Kings gear, right?
Yeah.
But then somebody says, you know, that's Simon, right? Like he built Culture Kings, sold up 600 million. Like what the fuck? Now all of a sudden you listen to the guy because the frame changed. And in Australia, if you want to become in social media, it's very hard. And this is what I was talking to the young real estate agent. He goes, I don't want to come off as a dickhead. I said, well, you know, you're 22, you made $700,000. The way I would do this is say, listen, guys, I'm just going to tell you what I made last year, not because I want to be a wanker and not because I want to boast about it, because I want to inspire you and I want to tell you it's possible because I did not think it was possible.
Adding a frame to it.
Yeah, you got to
Yeah.
pitch it in the right way. But if you're not prepared to put yourself on the hook for your story, you're just going to
Yeah.
have relevancy. You don't have authority. And the
Yeah.
authority comes from getting the result and then telling people about the result. That's why I said at the start, hey, I did $75 million in sales, because previously I never did.
Yeah.
But I tell it now because then people go, oh, fuck, maybe he does know what he's talking about. Yeah, I do. But I never flaunted that throughout the time. And
Yeah.
I should have done it in the right way.
It is a big fear in Australia because I've had a really good conversation with Simon about this, and something he shared with me when we were doing like a little documentary thing on him 2 weeks ago, and he was saying that, dude, like all the stuff I have now, the boat, the house, the penthouse, like the lifestyle, the traveling, he's like, this is my exit money. For the first 10 years of running Culture Kings, he was making 150 grand a year when his company was doing 50 mil. Like he's extremely humble and he was putting it all back in. And it wasn't until Tani, his beautiful wife, said to him, like, dude, we probably need to like take some dividends out just, you know, for security and look after our family. And you know, now he's sitting pretty, but you know, even someone of that caliber is like, I don't want to look like a dickhead, you know? Yeah. And I think it is a part of our culture, because if you go to the US, and I saw you talk about this in your feed, the culture in the US and the culture in Australia is quite different.
Dude.
Yeah.
Australia's getting better though.
It is. It's changing.
When I was in, quick story, I know we're over time, but when I was in LA and I bought myself, when I had my first 100 grand month on Amazon, I went and bought a Bentley convertible, right? Yeah. And paid cash down in Los Angeles. I went to pick this thing up, and I was excited, right? I went down there, and there's dark blue with the tan interior, you know.
Beautiful.
And I got there, and there was this big black guy there, and he goes, so you're the fucking guy who bought my car? And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, and he was the assistant coach for the Lakers. Oh, wow. And he said, I came down here to buy this car today, but they told me it's already sold. Yeah. He goes, congratulations, brother. You know, I'm so stoked for you. Yeah. And I'm like, fuck, how cool is that, right? And then
wow, man. So he was actually giving flowers.
And then I drove this thing out. And people were pulling up next to me at the lights going, brother, I love your car, man. That's sick. That's so inspiring. Wow. I had Uber drivers. And I'm like, fuck, man. Like in Australia, I probably would have said, what fucking wanker, you know, like look at this guy, you know. But there, they celebrated it, man. Like, and they loved it, you know. And that was the first reward, like Simon, you know, not at Simon's level, of course, but I just invested into the business, bam, bam, bam. And then eventually that was the first thing I bought out of my successful Amazon business.
It is changing though, because we have this thing where it's like, Australia has tall poppy. I'd say, I don't know, the generation that's coming up, like the millennials, Gen X and Gen Z, they're very different. They're a lot more celebratory, a lot more aware of the power of social media. And I guess we're becoming homogenized between the UK and the US because we're all online together all day anyway. So the culture is integrating.
I just bought a Ferrari and the young people, man, they come up like, dude, sick car, like, you know, and like, love it. Can we take a photo? Yeah. So it's definitely changing, and it's changing for the better. So,
wow, man. Yeah. So I guess like, what's on the horizon for you, man? Like, what are you walking into now? We've had some great conversations together, and I'm excited for you because I really see you as someone that is a rock star. You have a big heart. You love teaching people. You have great connective tissue in your communities. You're not trying to rob people and take something from them. Like, what's your passion now? What are you trying to bring into the market?
Yeah, so for the last 18 months, I've been a bit lost since I wound down the education business that I was in. And I've just, in the last few months, I've really become very crystal clear to me now that what I want to do is teach for the rest of my life, really. So I'm going to be coaching, doing some life business coaching. I'm starting a podcast, which I'll let you know about when it's live. We're setting up a proper studio like you guys. So it's going to be, podcast is sort of central to it, bringing in interesting guests that we can talk to and learn from. There's 4 of us on the pod as the anchors, the life coaching, business coaching stuff, and then an annual event. So we're going to run an annual event in Australia, which is going to sort of be similar to what I used to run in the past in terms of its values, what we're there to do, the length, you know, not getting them in for a couple of hours or an afternoon, but getting them in there for a multi-day event so that you come out having had a spiritual experience. And I mean that in a non-religious sense, but you're with your spirit family, the crazy people out there that want to be creative, that want to, because entrepreneurialism is just, you know, expression of creativity. It's publishing your art, you know? And it takes tremendous courage to publish art. you're not really an artist, I don't think, as Seth Godin. If you haven't read the book Icarus Deception,
I met Seth, incredible guy.
Yeah,
Beautiful book.
I interviewed him not long ago, and just an amazing human being. But he says when you publish your art, it takes huge courage because it's open to criticism, and so we want to help entrepreneurs publish their art and be around a supportive community of people that are going to cheer them on, and we're going to create a framework to be recognised in the only way that business is measured, which is in profits. And then we'll probably have a recognition for people who've also used those profits to, give back. Because I love to educate, liberate, and then amplify their success. And if I can be involved in that for the rest of my life, educating people, liberating them from the 9 to 5, and then helping them to amplify and give back, I think that makes for a pretty happy human being. Getting to do what you love, being rewarded, and so on. So that's what I'm going to do. So annual event starting next year in Australia. Yeah. It'll be a cracking event. It'll be Rockstar.
I'll be there, man. I'm excited.
Oh, mate, I'll have you on the stage.
Hey.
Tell your story.
We can crack jokes about how you didn't DM me. And
yeah. No, but it's good for all the older people my age listening to this. You got to pay attention to these young people coming up. Otherwise, you're just going to get old. And you want to listen. And I do now a lot more listening to people like you. And I pay to go to Matt's events and come to hang because you guys have just got some real advantages over us, and I'm so open to learning, So that's me. So if people want to sort of connect, probably Instagram's the best, Adam Hudson Official. Just stay following there, and you'll see what I'm doing over the next little while. But I just want to help, man. Like I want to wake people up. People out there are just so asleep, spiritually dead, doing stuff they hate, like a drone. And I want to help people with the tools to wake up to what really their potential is. And it's so much higher. People are not feeling as good as they could feel. They're satisfied or used to just this low level existence. And I'm like, man, I feel on fire. I'm nearly 50 and I feel better now than I did in my 20s.
You look great, man.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean,
genuinely,
I've got my diet right. I've got my bloods being monitored. I look after the physical side. I'm stimulated by what I'm doing. I just wake up ready to rip the balls off the day, And I hope that for everybody. I love what I do. I love the people I get to meet and hang with, and I love getting DMs from people who, I got one last week from a guy who said, Adam, you don't know me, but I am the cousin of the guy who moves your houses. And I went through moving properties there for a minute before I got my place now. And my life hit rock bottom. I became a removalist. I was working with him, and he said to me, follow this guy, Adam, on Instagram. And 2 years ago, he was a removalist, and now he's doing over $1 million a year in his own e-com business.
Wow.
250 grand last month. And he DM'd me, say, Adam, you changed my life. I never knew this was possible. I followed you. I implemented everything you said. I love that. What a way to make a living. Just to help people, man. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm committing the rest of my life to that, and the charity.
I can feel it in your voice and just your energy. I think everyone has their forever passion and the thing that they really want to devote themselves to. And you've had great successes in business, and you still do with a beautiful toilet brand. And yeah, man, I'm learning so much from you as well. Like I learn a lot from just your approach, and even just you sharing ice with me the other night on the phone. That sounds terrible. The ice method, even it got me to thinking about our business, and I'm like, okay, cool. Like we've got ideas where we're expanding into. We're trying to figure out the capital, and we probably need to litmus test these ideas a little bit more. Because I'm pretty excited about it, but it got me thinking. I'm like, let's stress test this a little bit.
Well, when you stress test it, man, think about how much more confidence you're going to have in the market. Yeah. You go, hey, we just turned $1 into $2 consistently with this idea.
Yeah.
Now you don't mind going to the bank and saying, hey, boys, give me half a brick.
Yeah. You're going to have a bit more energy. Like, I've proven this thing. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, people don't do it because they haven't got the confidence. But if you've got the data, man, I took the data. Once I got the data, I know. Yeah. I know that those ads are working. I know that the website's converting.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yep. And we can find you on pretty much every social media channel, Adam Hudson.
Instagram's the best, Adam Hudson Official.
Will you reply to people's DMs?
I reply to everyone's DMs personally.
Let's go. Come on. I do the same. Yeah.
I do. I reply to everyone personally. People go, who's this really? I'm like, it's really me.
Yeah.
And then they don't believe me. I send them a voice note.
Yeah.
Please don't send me voice notes.
Yeah.
Because it's the one thing I don't like when you get a 3-minute voice note. And I don't know this person yet. So,
Yeah, it's
You
like
know?
Matt was saying. There's like a rule where I can't remember what he said. Matt Purcell, he was saying that if you spend like 10 hours consuming someone's content on social media, it feels like your brain doesn't know the difference between them being a friend or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, and people have that affinity and that relationship with you digitally.
You
And
must
then,
have seen, I mean, you'll see it more when people turn up at an event to
Yeah.
see you. They sort of look at you like, oh my God, this is Dane, right? They feel
I know
like
him.
they know you,
Yeah.
right? And it's
Yeah.
this weird moment of dissonance where
Yeah.
for them, you know, because they've only seen you on socials or whatever.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think everybody listening to this, if you're in Australia or New Zealand or America or the UK or any of those countries, we live in such an amazing time, and the level of abundance and privilege that has been dumped on your head is beyond ridiculous. And to not make the absolute most of your life is a slap into the face to the billions of people that would literally die to be here.
Yeah.
We are just beyond blessed. It takes so much discipline to die of starvation here. We are just insanely blessed. Yeah, we're asleep at the wheel in our own lives. And I want people just to go, what am I doing? Like, give yourself a big fucking uppercut and realize you are the lucky few. And I mean the real few. Like, the data is, if you're making over 50 grand a year, I think it is, you're in the top 0.5% of income earners globally.
Yeah.
Billions of people make dollars a day. You know, so stop being a little bitch and actually wake up and realize you are blessed, and start from that place.
Yeah.
And your world will start to open up, and the access to knowledge and training and people, the fact you can DM Dane or you can DM me and get a response these days, that's amazing. That's amazing.
It's unprecedented. Like Gary was saying this in one of his videos. He's like, marketing on content is free.
Yes.
It's free. You can go on your phone now and just hit live, and 50 people will watch it. And like you said, you sold out an event with barely any resources. You're like, yeah, I'm doing this thing. I need X. Send it to my bank.
But I invested like for years before I stopped doing
Decades.
it. I did every day. I did what I call carpool coaching. I go live most mornings for 10 minutes, just sharing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And over time, people trust you and they like you and they respect you. And that's the basis for any great relationships. Warren Buffett's 3 rules. Do I like them? Do I trust them? Do I respect them? If any of those are not there, I'm out. But that's what social media gives you the chance to do, to build like, trust, and respect over time. And you will never, ever want for money. Even if you've only got 1,000 true followers, like Paul Graham wrote the essay, if you've got 1,000 real fans that truly love you, you won't need to work for money.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many ways to make money.
That article changed my life.
Yeah,
I think
1,000
it's
true fans.
1,000 true fans. But what's his name?
Paul Graham.
Paul Graham.
He's the founder of the incubator in the most successful incubator in Silicon Valley. Y Combinator.
Yeah.
So anyway, so read that.
That changed my life because it just simplifies it.
Yeah.
He's like, the thing that really hooked me was when he said, like, you know, you don't need 10,000 followers, blah, blah, blah. You just need 1,000 people to be like, Adam's a good guy.
He's a rock star.
He's a rock star. I trust him.
Yeah.
And you can build one a day for 3 years.
That's it.
And you'll have 1,000 fans.
So many people want it today. They just want it now.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, just be patient. Play the long game. You're 23 years old.
Yeah.
Right, dude, slow down. Don't compare. I'm 30 years in to my entrepreneurial journey, literally.
Yeah.
And you go, but all of the success mostly came in the last 10 years. Like I had a 20-year shit run, you know? So just keep going. It is worth it. I can tell you from the other side, it's worth it. Be patient, seek to serve. Forget about how you're going to transact. But when you want to transact with people, it's written all over your face.
Yeah.
Ask, how can I serve? What are you dealing with
Sales
right now?
breath.
How can I help you? How can I help you? How can I serve you? And if you think about that for the first few years of your career, man, you are going to be set for life.
Yeah. And I think that's the key. And I say this again and again, and I rarely see it executed. And we both, like, you know, collabed on this kind of concept in a conversation that we had. And it's like, give it away for free.
Dude, your
every
best
day.
stuff. Give your best stuff
All
away
of it.
for free.
Yeah. How do I monetize it? Don't worry about it. If you're good and you give it away for free, people will DM you, what can I buy from you?
And people forget you're on a trajectory yourself. You think you're giving away your best stuff. You are. But guess what? You're going to be a better person tomorrow, and you're going to have new best stuff.
Yeah.
So you're going to constantly have new best ideas, new best things to give if you're on the journey yourself. If you're a fraud that isn't on a journey and you're just trying to pitch people, then sure, you're going to run out of shit to do. I'm never going to run out of shit to talk about because I'm always going to be doing it myself. And if I'm not doing it myself, I will shut the fuck up about it.
Yeah.
Because I got nothing to say unless I'm doing it myself.
Yeah.
And if you're out there in the world doing it yourself, that's why I shared my journey of the toilets. On my Instagram, I said to guys, hey guys, I've just found this toilet. I think I'm going to go and do this. Watch me build this live in front of you. And the reason I did it is because I wanted to show people, hey, I've been out of the game a minute. I want to apply the own principles that I teach. And I'm going to show you how to turn 200 grand. I'm going to use my own money for 6 months. I'm going to get the bank to finance it after that. And I'm going to make it $1 million asset in 2 years. It's almost there now.
Wow.
So from $0 to $1 million in equity in 2 years, all I got to do is get the business making 300 grand a year profit, and it's $1 million asset, and I'll get my cash back in 6 months. So that's an amazing story, right?
Yeah.
And I did it in front of you when I didn't need to do it. I'm working today like I don't have any money, and I'm loving it because that's me. Dyed in the wool entrepreneur. I fucking love it. I love seeing if the idea is right, can I take it to market in a profitable way? And I'll do it in front of you on camera.
Yeah.
And I'll share everything, all the good things, all the bad things. If I fuck it up, I'll show you that too. You know?
Yeah.
Not if, when. There's still things that, you know. So I just encourage people, you know, turn it up. We are just so blessed. It's such an amazing time to be alive. And good luck out there.
Yeah. Well, Adam, thank you.
Yeah.
I know you got a busy schedule. I appreciate you dropping in, man. And I always love hanging out with you. And just thanks so much for sharing all this amazing value with us. And I'm excited to, see your event when it pops up, man, next year. I'm pumped for it.
Genuinely, thank you for having me. And to you guys in the studio that came in early this morning at 7 a.m. start, I really do appreciate it. And the listeners, all you guys are listening, thank you for your attention for a split second. It's just so valuable.
Shout out Cabe. Shout out Cam. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks.
And we'll have to get you on again, man.
Yeah, anytime. Happy to.
See you in the future. Bye for now.
Bye.